Before we start, 90% of our viewers aren't subscribed to the channel. Please subscribe and make me happy. Now, let's get into the video. The story begins with Stephen, a respected cardiac surgeon, finishing an open-heart surgery at the hospital. Stephen is known for his skill and precision in the operating room, but as the movie unfolds, it becomes clear that even the most talented individuals are not immune to their own human flaws. One of his previous patients, the father of a boy named Martin, tragically passed away during a procedure that Stephen performed. Although Stephen claims that he did everything he could, he carries a heavy sense of guilt over the incident. Martin, the 16-year-old son of the deceased patient, starts visiting Stephen more frequently. Out of pity and guilt, Stephen begins spending time with Martin, feeling a sense of obligation toward the boy who lost his father under his care. Their meetings become routine, and Stephen tries to be kind to Martin, even gifting him a watch at one of their encounters. As Martin takes the gift, he seems oddly attached to Stephen, who doesn't notice the sinister undertones of their growing relationship. Stephen returns home to his wife, Anna, and their two children, Bob and Kim. The family is well off, living a seemingly perfect life in a large, pristine home. They sit down for dinner, and Stephen casually tells his family about his day and his encounter with Martin. His wife, Anna, suggests that they should invite Martin over for dinner sometime, trying to be polite and supportive of Stephen's connection with the boy. Later that evening, after Stephen and Anna go to bed, a strange dynamic between them is revealed. Stephen has a bizarre fascination with anesthesia, and he appears to be sexually excited by the sight of Anna pretending to be unconscious, creating a disturbing undercurrent in their marriage. Anna plays along, but the scene hints at deeper issues within their relationship. The next day, Martin contacts Stephen unexpectedly, wanting to meet. Stephen, busy with his work and life, is annoyed by the uninvited visit and tells Martin not to come by unannounced again. Martin apologizes, explaining that he only wanted to show Stephen the new watch strap he bought for the watch Stephen gave him. Although Stephen feels uneasy, he brushes it off as harmless and agrees to meet Martin again. A few days later, Martin visits Stephen's home for lunch. He brings gifts for everyone in the family, attempting to ingratiate himself with them. Bob and Kim enjoy the attention, and Martin takes a particular interest in Kim. After lunch, Martin and Kim go for a walk, spending time together before returning to the house. It becomes clear that Martin's presence is becoming more ingrained in their lives. Martin then invites the whole family over to his house for dinner, which Stephen reluctantly agrees to. That evening, after dinner at Martin's house, Martin asks Stephen to stay and watch a movie, but Stephen declines, sensing an awkwardness from Martin's mother, who seems overly eager for Stephen to remain. Martin's mother is clearly infatuated with Stephen and suggests that he could stay the night. Stephen, uncomfortable, declines again and leaves. The next day, Martin shows up at Stephen's hospital, complaining of chest pain and expressing concern that he might have inherited his father's heart condition. Stephen, feeling some responsibility for Martin, gives him a checkup but finds nothing wrong. Despite this, Martin continues to seek Stephen's attention, even suggesting that they meet for dinner again, but Stephen declines. Martin pushes further, insinuating that his mother has feelings for Stephen and that they could be a good match. Stephen, growing more uncomfortable, firmly reminds Martin that he is happily married and has a family. As time passes, Martin's behavior becomes more obsessive. He begins contacting Stephen more frequently, seeking his attention and attempting to integrate himself further into Stephen's family. Stephen, realizing that Martin's attachment is becoming unhealthy, starts to pull away, ignoring Martin's calls and distancing himself. One evening, Kim comes home late and casually mentions that Martin gave her a ride. This revelation upsets Stephen, who is growing increasingly wary of Martin. As tensions rise, Martin is seen standing outside Stephen's house, a shadowy figure observing the family from a distance. The next morning, when Stephen prepares for work, he discovers that Bob is still in bed and complaining of severe leg pain. At first, Stephen dismisses it, thinking Bob is faking to avoid school. However, as Bob's condition worsens, Stephen realizes that something is seriously wrong. He and Anna rush Bob to the hospital, but the doctors are unable to find any medical explanation for his condition. Bob's legs have become paralyzed, and despite various tests, the doctors are baffled. The next day, Stephen and Anna find Martin in Bob's hospital room. Martin claims he is there to visit Bob, but the situation feels increasingly suspicious. As Stephen speaks to Martin privately, Martin calmly tells Stephen that the paralysis is only the beginning of what's to come. He explains that after the death of his father on Stephen's operating table, a balance must be restored. To achieve this balance, Stephen must kill one of his family members, or else they will all die. Martin describes the stages of the curse: paralysis, refusal to eat, bleeding from the eyes, and ultimately death. Stephen is horrified by Martin's words and throws him out of the hospital, but Martin's calm demeanor and eerie prediction haunt him. Later, when Stephen visits Bob again, he finds that Bob hasn't eaten anything, just as Martin predicted. Panicking, Stephen tries to force-feed Bob, but Anna stops him. Sensing that something is deeply wrong with her husband, as Bob's condition worsens, the doctors are still unable to find a medical explanation. Specialists suggest that the illness might be psychological, but Stephen knows there's more to it. Desperate, Stephen confronts Martin again, but Martin remains unfazed, repeating his demand. Stephen must kill one of his family members, or they will all die. As days pass, Kim also falls ill, collapsing during choir practice and becoming paralyzed just like Bob. She is admitted to the hospital, and Stephen, in a state of desperation, tries to force her to eat, but she chokes, leading the doctors to insert feeding tubes. Meanwhile, Martin continues to manipulate the family from afar, maintaining contact with Kim, who believes she is in love with him. Anna, realizing that Martin is behind the suffering of her children, confronts him, begging for an explanation. Martin coldly tells her that this is the only way to restore balance, and that she and her children are paying the price for Stephen's mistake. Anna, desperate to save her family, meets with the anesthesiologist who worked with Stephen during the surgery on Martin's father. She suspects that something went wrong during the operation and that Stephen may be hiding the truth. The anesthesiologist agrees to help her, but in exchange, he demands a sexual favor. Anna, willing to do anything to save her children, complies. Afterward, the anesthesiologist reveals that Stephen had been drinking before the surgery, implying that Stephen may have been responsible for Martin's father's death. Returning home, Anna confronts Stephen, telling him that they need to take action to save their children. Stephen, feeling cornered, begins to unravel, questioning whether the curse is real or if there's another explanation. In a moment of desperation, Stephen kidnaps Martin, ties him up in the basement, and tries to beat a confession out of him. Martin, however, remains eerily calm, warning Stephen that killing him will only make things worse. Meanwhile, Bob and Kim, both bedridden and paralyzed, begin to talk about which one of them will die. Kim, sensing that Bob might be the one to go, asks if she can have his MP3 player after he's gone. Bob, in a desperate attempt to win his father's favor, crawls to Stephen and cuts his own hair, hoping that this gesture will save him. He even tells his father that he wants to be a cardiologist just like him, trying to appeal to Stephen's emotions. As the situation reaches its breaking point, Stephen knows that he must make a decision. He takes Bob, Kim, and Anna to the basement, ties their hands, and covers their heads with woolen hats. With a gun in his hand, Stephen spins around, firing blindly, trying to decide who will die. The first shot misses, and he removes the hat from his face, seeing that all three are still alive. He tries again, nearly hitting Anna. On the third attempt, the bullet hits Bob, killing him instantly. In the final scene, Stephen, Anna, and Kim sit in a diner, eating in silence. Martin walks in and sits at the counter, acknowledging the family with a cold, knowing glance. The curse has been lifted and balance has been restored, but the price has been paid in blood. The movie ends with the family getting up to leave, Kim casting one final glance back at Martin before they walk out the door. The chilling realization that Stephen was forced to kill his own son to appease Martin's twisted sense of justice lingers as the credits roll. Thank you for watching this recap. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out our other movie recaps on the channel.